Hi, everybody. It's Mary Esther, Tiffany, and we have Sierra with us today. Sierra is a graduate of UTCS from 2016, and she's going to tell us about herself and what she's doing with her computer science degree these days.
Hi, I'm a software engineer at Disney. I've been at Disney for 3 years now. I also did 3 internships with Disney before that. Um, and I am in the Seattle office, which a lot of people don't realize exists. So I grew up in Texas my whole life, went to UT, and then moved to Seattle right after college to start my full-time job there. And I do both front end and back end, which means I do work on the UI or the interface that you interact with on a website or in a program, as well as all the behind the scenes stuff with APIs and managing data.
What maybe some of the acronyms might not be as familiar to everyone. So tell us a little bit about the UI and the APIs.
The UI that stands for user interface. So it's anything that you interact with. A lot of times on websites, for example, when you're clicking a button or you're typing into a search box, anything you interact with on the website is called the user interface or the UI. And then the APIs are once you maybe hit the submit button on a form, it will send that information to something else that will probably save the information in a database or send it to somebody else on an email. And so those are usually called APIs. Application Program Interface, I think is what it stands for. You know, the visual side is very important in the UI. A lot of times you'll have engineers who are both designing what it looks like visually as well as implementing the functionality, and sometimes those can be two separate pieces. But the reason that I like the UI is because of that visual element. I thought I was going to be a graphic artist before I knew what computer science was, so that was able to kind of blend the two. And then APIs are very logic focused and feel a lot like a puzzle or like a logic puzzle, putting pieces together. So it's much less visual and creative in that sense, but it's creative in your sort of problem solving brain.
How many employees does Disney have in the area that you work in?
The last number I heard was 1,400 people in our office. And then I'm in the direct to consumer and international segment, which is the segment that has like Disney Plus and all the really exciting things. So that is huge. I have no idea how many people, but it's across the world and thousands of people.
What is it like working there? I know you're working at home now, but what are the offices like? What's the environment?
They feel very Disney. Each floor is themed after something Disney, ESPN or Marvel or ABC or the parks or something like that. And the people are super friendly and supportive, and it very much feels like Disney on the inside as well as it does on the outside. It's a really nice, positive environment to work in, especially when I was coming right out of college and still felt like I didn't know anything at all. It was a really nice environment to be in to kind of boost my confidence.
Before you started working at home all the time, did you work at home as well as go to the office, or were you mostly in the office?
We have or before this, we had a 1 day a week work from home day where everybody would just work from home on Wednesdays. A lot of the teams have that. I was on 4 different teams, I think. And all of them had a work from home day. So most teams were implementing that already in some form.
Prior to going to work full time at Disney, you did some internships there. Tell us a little bit about the internships.
The internships were awesome. And I want to start with the internship I had before that, which was at another company. It was after my freshman year, so my very first internship, and I absolutely hated it. It was not a great experience. I was in a room by myself. Didn't have enough like desks with the rest of the team members, so I was in a room by myself in a corner. I could not tell you the name of a single person on my team or what they looked like. I didn't talk to anybody and nobody talked to me, and I never really had a project or anything. It was not really an internship at all. But that since that was my first experience, it's like, oh my gosh, is this just what life is like? Is this what it's like to work in an office? It's just quiet and sad. So after that, I was concerned that I had either chosen the wrong major, or that I was just gonna hate industry, or maybe I hated computer science. I really wasn't sure what was going on. And then the next year is when I got my Disney internship, and I hadn't thought of Disney as a place that I could work as, in tech. And then I saw them at our career fair. Actually, they don't come super often. I think it was like that year, and then 2 years later, they showed up, and I was like, oh my gosh, Disney! Like, this is, of course, I want to work at Disney. So I handed them my resume and got my internship. And so I did that one, and after that internship, everything felt a lot better. It's like, okay, now I understand. I do like computer science. I like programming. I like working in the industry if there are places like this. Because again, it was super positive. They were very aware that I was a college sophomore, or incoming junior, I guess. And then I didn't know a whole lot, and they were very happy and willing to work with me and teach me. So that's where I learned what APIs were. I had no idea what that was before. It took me the whole summer to learn how to send information with an API. And now that's what I do as my full-time job all the time. So it was super, super positive. And that's what I'm not sure if I'd had another bad internship experience. I don't know if I would have stuck with the major. I wasn't confident that I was in the right place. So what we learn in classes aren't necessarily exactly what we do in the industry. We need the classes to help us learn learn what we need to do on the job. So there's not a direct translation from what we do in our projects to what I was doing at work. And I really, really liked what I was doing at work. And so it's like, okay, if this is what I get to do, then I absolutely understand. So it was great. And so I did 2 more internships with them. I just kept going back until they hired me, basically. And yeah, it was fantastic. Made great friends and great mentors, and had great managers and teams. Yeah.
Let's go back kind of before college. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with computer science in high school? Did you take classes? Did you do special projects? Did you have no experience going into college?
Yeah, I didn't know what computer science was until I was in about 8th grade. Had not even crossed my mind as a thing that could be done. But my stepdad is a software engineer, and so he was helping me with math one day, and he's like, you might be good at computer science. You might enjoy it because the way you walk through these math problems really kind of matches the type of brain and the kind of type of logic you use in computer science. And I always mentioned that math wasn't my best subject. It wasn't my favorite subject. I wasn't fantastic at it. I was okay. But that's still, that process I had of walking through the problems is really what kind of directed me towards computer science. So I took 2 classes in high school, the intro class and then the AP class. Our teachers for that weren't great. One of them didn't really interact with us at all. He didn't give us homework or help with anything. He would mostly direct us to a website that a teacher from another school had stood up and put some lessons on there. So I didn't get a whole lot from him, but again, I had my stepdad at home who kind of ended up filling in that teacher role. And then second year, it was similar, a different teacher, but they just weren't well versed in computer science. They just kind of got thrown into it because they knew math. So I did take the classes. They were helpful enough in that I was like, okay, I think I like this. From what I have learned, I think I enjoy it, and I would like to major in it.
And then you went to First Bites, and that kind of solidified a little bit more.
Yeah, went to First Bites, and it was really cool. It was not only sort of getting an idea of what a college campus was like, and I was already thinking I probably wanted to go to UT, so that was super nice, but meeting other girls who wanted to do it, because again, in my high school classes, I think there were 3 girls in my class the first year, and I was the only one that was there like by choice. The other two really were not interested. They needed some specific type of elective, I think. So I didn't really have anybody to interact with that was as interested as I was. So it was really cool seeing other girls my age that were interested in it, and excited to learn more about it. And then the projects that we did, I think it was a light show. We got to pick sort of what we wanted to do, and we did a like old school Game Boy, like we did various games on it, like Snake, Tetris, and one other one. I can't remember what it was anymore, but we made like a big Game Boy frame for it, and then we got to program the lights to make the designs for Snake and for Tetris and whatever other games. And that was super cool that I was doing something creative with it because I wanted to do something creative. Doing something creative with technology, and that was kind of like the final like click, like, okay, this is definitely something I can work with. Like, this is really cool. So First Bites was, yeah, super influential. And that's where I met my roommate for freshman year as well.
And so when you got to college, what kinds of things were you involved in? And did the classes just click? Were there challenges?
There are definitely challenges. The very first semester, I did okay. It was a lot of stuff that I had started to learn in my high school classes, but hadn't really fully grasped. So it wasn't too bad. It was fun. It was challenging still, but it didn't just happen. It didn't come super naturally. I still had to work at it and try and piece things together. Things that now feel like they come naturally, second nature, but at the time it was super duper challenging, but still pretty fun to try and piece together. And I wasn't really involved in much until I think it was my junior year, maybe my senior year. I started doing some more. I went to Grace Hopper with UT. I think that was my junior year. I went to Grace Hopper. And then I kind of got more involved with some of the other women in the department, which again, I had my couple of friends that I had stuck with, but I hadn't been going to like the women in tech meetings or anything. So I still wasn't really connecting with everybody that I could have been. But that Grace Hopper was a big turning point because I was, with them for a whole weekend, getting to know them. And then after that, I was much more involved in Wix, and we had lean in circles I think it was my very last semester is when lean in circles started, or maybe it's my second to last semester. And that's where I made some really good friends as well and felt much more prepared to go into the industry because I had these other women, or again, around my same age, going through the same things, all kind of talking each other up and helping each other prepare for the real life version of computer science. Grace Hopper's celebration of women in computing. Women in computing. So it is a giant conference for women in tech, in all areas of tech. It's software and programming. There are women for hardware. It's a hardware track now. There's security. There's any kind of technology you can possibly imagine. There are other women there, showing off and talking and sharing about all the cool things that they do. So it is a really cool, unique experience, because everywhere you look, there are women. And a lot of times in the office, I still notice, I'll look around and be like, I am one of two women in the room. And it's getting better. I've only been in the industry 3 years, and I can already see it getting better, but it's still completely different when you go to this conference and there's, one or two men in the whole room instead of only one or two women. But there are talks where people can go and show off what they've been working on or what they've been researching, or talk about what they're wanting to do or looking for people to help them do. And there are a lot of meetups where you can just meet people and hang out. It's a really, really cool, special experience for any woman in technology.
Now that you've been working for a couple of years, where do you see your career going? What would you aspire to do in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a good question. I have switched back and forth 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years on which direction I want to take things, because for a little while I thought maybe I wanted to do project management, which is more of the a little bit more businessy side of tech. So it's still within the tech realm, but it's planning a project out and making sure that it's going smoothly. It's talking to customers and gathering requirements. What features do they want to see? What do they want to change? What do they want to add? And I'm very much a people person, and I like kind of gathering requirements like that. I'm very meticulous as well. So I thought maybe I wanted to do that, and then I've gone back and forth. But now I think I want to keep going on the pretty solidly technical track. I really want to be able to lead a team. I have, over the last year, or about a year, I've been able to take on a lot more responsibility on my team and sort of move up from that entry level kind of, just out of college position to a little more knowledgeable about our projects or the services that my team offers. And that's been really exciting to have ownership of something and not just be working on this service, but being able to direct it in different ways and introduce new technology to it and improve it. So I think that's where I want to keep going, is keep learning new technical skills and keep pushing towards being more responsible for more pieces of our service and helping guide our new team members and teach them and mentor them.
Is there any advice you might want to offer to our applicants for our camps? This is both First Bytes and Code Longhorn. We've combined into this summer academy. Any little tidbits of wisdom for what they're probably experiencing now, but what they can look forward to and how they might approach moving forward in their education?
Going to college and preparing to go to college is already pretty stressful and scary, especially if you're coming farther, coming from out of town or out of state or something like that. And going to these camps will help a lot in just feeling more comfortable in where you're heading. You can make some friends, even if you don't end up going to the same school that a camp is at. Just having that familiarity of how a campus works and how college works and the kinds of people that you'll meet there will be really, really helpful in feeling less anxious and stressed about it. But for me, it was very stressful going pretty much all throughout college. But it's so rewarding at the end of it that when you have a job that you really enjoy, and there's so many companies with so many different areas of technology and computer science you can go into with this degree, you'll be able to find something that you really enjoy. And so it's so rewarding, even if you feel like you are not doing so well in your classes, you're gonna be okay. It's gonna work out, and you will find a place that you enjoy working and doing something you enjoy doing. Even if you leave with a computer science degree and realize you really don't want to program, that degree is going to help you get into other areas of technology like project management or anything else, all kinds of different things. Another thing I would recommend is, if you get the chance to talk to people in industry or in academia in the computer science area, ask them about their paths and their journey and how they got here, because there's so many people that I've talked to that started out completely different. The lead on my team was in fashion design school, and then wrote a little computer program, a game on their computer, and ended up, now he's the lead of a software engineering team, or people who started out in history majors and then eventually ended up here. So there's so many different ways to get here, and so many different ways that your other interests can intersect with technology. So hearing about people's experiences is also really, really interesting and motivating.
Great. Can you tell us some of your hobbies outside of work?
Yeah, I do cosplay, so I sew a lot. And I have a group of friends that we all will do group cosplays together. We'll decide, we're all going to be Harry Potter characters. And so we pick a character, we make the costume. We're Disney princesses. That's our favorite because we all met through Disney. So we all have our Disney characters, and we'll be like, okay, this year we're going to be flapper Disney princesses, and this year we're going to be Jedi Disney princesses. So we make costumes and go to events together. I also do cross stitch and embroidery. I play drums a little bit. That one's kind of fallen off a little, but I like to do very creative things in my off time, because computer science, again, can be creative in certain ways, but not in the very sort of artistic ways that I used to think that I wanted to do. I do like IoT, which is Internet of Things. So I always have these ideas of something that I'm going to make, which is like with an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi or some sort of microcomputer, microcontroller, which is what we used in First Bytes. I think that's where this came from, was First Bytes. I'm always trying to find something new to do it with. So I have a bunch of ideas and things that I've started to make my own cool, computer gadget. I don't always finish them. Most of the time I don't finish them, but it's kind of fun to exercise that creativity and be like, ooh, what if I did this, and sort of work through the problems. So if I could finish one of them, that would absolutely be my favorite tech gadget.
We actually have all the instructions for the, it was called Project Illuminate, what y'all did at the camp. Allison has those on her website. So there are ways to create that at home. It may be over the summer there's going to be some interest in that, because it is a really fun project and it's very visual. Some of the photos and videos from the projects are on our Facebook page. And I remember your project, Sierra. I remember watching it. I just love it at the end when we get to see all the projects and see the culmination of all the work that everyone did.
Yeah,
together.
It's so fun, and it's really inspiring to see all the cool things that people did and the different ways that people took it as well.
Yeah.
I also am teaching now for TEALS, which is an organization that it's a Microsoft philanthropy, so Microsoft sponsors it, but it's a 501(c), I think is what it is, organization, and it takes industry professionals, computer science industry, and sends them to high schools to teach computer science. And so I've been doing that. This is my third year teaching with TEALS, and they have remote options. So I've been teaching from Seattle, usually my house or the office in Seattle. I've been teaching in rural Eastern Washington. I taught at Walla Walla High School for 2 years, and then Tenasket High School this year. So nowhere near them, but I teach them every day. And that has also been really cool, because that's kind of circled back around from when I was in high school trying to figure out what the heck was going on with this computer science and this programming stuff and how does Java work, to now circling around to being able to teach that and sort of get back into that mindset of like, okay, what confused me when I was in high school, and how can I explain that better than it was explained to me? So that's been really fun and kind of keeps me up on my like Java basics, because sometimes you can forget and start doing things maybe the way that your team that does them, but it's not necessarily how that feature was intended to be used. So it keeps me, kind of grounded and reminds me how far I've come from there.
How did you get involved in that program?
They have a TEALS fair every year, and it's all of the students, at least in the Washington one. I think they have them around the country, but in Washington they have one where all of the Washington, Oregon, and now Canadian, like Vancouver area students can come to the fair and go around to different booths from companies that are in the area and learn about what the company does and get some cool swag and stuff. Kind of like a career fair, but they're in high school. They're like often sophomores or juniors in high school, so they're kind of just learning about what all this is. And Disney had a booth there. We have the booth there every year so far, for the last 4 years, I think. So I went there, and then we were like, how can we actually get involved on the teaching side of this? So a couple of friends from work and I applied and taught together that first year.
Does Disney promote your volunteer opportunities? Do they do matching if you donate money? What is their perspective on that?
Yeah, Disney does had a lot of, or is very supportive of volunteer work. So there's a lot of events that Disney sponsors directly with various organizations. And then you can also log outside volunteer work, which is where my TEALS volunteering comes in. And then at the end, or in like March of every year, you can apply for a grant to whatever organization you want. So usually I have the grants go back to the schools that I've been teaching at. So I log my hours, and for every certain number of hours, Disney will donate that much money in a grant to them. So there's that. They also do matching. Yeah, they've got the whole range of options.
Are you the teacher for computer science class, or are you kind of a supplement to their teacher?
There are different formats for TEALS. The way that the format we are in, it's a team of 4 of us. So there's me and another volunteer teacher, and then 2 volunteer TAs. And then there's the classroom teacher, and usually the classroom teacher is they're the ones hired by the district to teach that class. But a lot of the times they are not computer scientists and they've never studied it. They might be math teachers, they might be language teachers, they might be somebody that has a computer. Our first year was the yearbook teacher, and she got assigned to the computer science class because she had computers in her room. She's like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. So that's where TEALS tries to step in and provide people who are knowledgeable that can train both the teachers and teach the students. So the goal is after about 2 to 3 years, the teacher should know enough to be able to start taking over. And then eventually, after a period of time, the teacher won't need the TEALS volunteers anymore, and the TEALS volunteers can move on to another school.
I think that's about all that we have time for today. So Sierra, we really want to thank you for participating and filling us in. It's really nice to catch up with you too, since I haven't been in touch with you in a long time.